So we now have something in a variable that we're saying, oh, well, we're going somewhere. We're leading to an int in a tree somewhere, and we're going to stick that int into going where. So where are we going? So now we need to say that if the current question, his options, and the int of that, which option are we talking about? Leads somewhere, so we are actually going somewhere. That's going to be a boolean. Then obviously we have an int to say where we're going. So where are we going? Oh, sorry. So we're going somewhere. We already asked, are we going somewhere? Up here, yes. Where are we going? Now I need to ask a question, and it was not that question. It is lead to question. So, are we going to a question? So, this is yes, this is going to be a boolean. So yes, we're going to a question. And this is going to look very familiar. Load question. Which question are we loading? Well, we're loading going somewhere, or going where we're going. Next is our avatar. So an avatar for that question. And lastly, we will put the question on the screen by asking a question. What if when we click an answer, we're not going to a question? We can go to a conversation. So we're going to load dialog. Which dialog are we loading? The one in going somewhere. And what else do we need? We need our avatar. And lastly, we need to print the chat onto the screen. Okay, so all of that is saying that we are going somewhere. Here we said we are leading to somewhere by clicking on this. And we're either leading to a question or we're leading to a dialogue. But what if we're not going anywhere? I can have an answer that says goodbye. When I click on that, everything closes down. So we need to first, let's see if we are going to remove remove the NPC. So we're going to be checking for that, and that will be in our current question. We're going to look at the option to see if that option actually tells us to remove the NPC, because the option could say, I never want to speak to you again, and the NPC gets removed. So it is the question int, and we're checking to remove the NPC. Once again, at the beginning, we flip this over. And lastly, we click exit, and we're done. And that is it for our questions. I'll save this. We're going to go back to Unity now, and it's time to start linking some things together. Right now, it's expecting a bracket. Oh, it's gone. Good. So let's look at our dialog system. The dialog system contains the dialog script with everything that's in it. There's no conversation on it yet. Now, the opener, this guy here, top of my screen, he needs a function. So we've already told everything that the dialog system has the code on it, so we've put that in already. We need to go to our script, and we need to open our dialog. Inside of the dialog position, inside of this guy here, I have the dialog exit, which is the dark background. We have that. It is called click exit. Next, the avatars don't do anything. The dialog box, this guy here, he is a button on his own, and he needs to do something. Whenever I click on him, he will click next. So that will go to the next part of the conversation. And our question box. So I can hide this one. And the question box is not a button, but it contains a bunch of buttons. So the first thing we want to do is we want to say that these will all go to question click. When I click on any of them, it's going to run that. Now, each one has to be set up separately. He's set up to 0. I've already set these up already, so he's set up to 1. He's supposed to be set up to 2. And he's set up to 3. So that will be on our screen 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now, when we first start up, I don't want to see any of them, so I'm going to turn them off. I don't want to see this. I'm going to turn him off. I don't want to see this or this, so I turn them off. Lastly, the demo NPC, we did a script for our NPC. Where is our script? Scripts. Here's our script for the NPC. This NPC is asking for a NPC scriptable object. So we created one in the demo. We called him Mark. Here's Mark. So in the NPC, let's drag Mark onto there. Now you can create Mark to be a lot more expressive. So right now we only have a conversation that Mark is going to use. However, you can have a name, a sprite, an animation controller. There's so many things you can add to Mark. He can have health if you want to be able to battle Mark after you've talked to him. There's so many things you can do with that. But Mark only currently needs conversation. So we're going to drag a conversation tree in there, and let's look at our tree. Our tree consists of saying that Mark is in the scene, the scene's location. Where is he? He's at -5. So Mark, who's close to the middle right now, will pop over to the left at -5. Because we said, where does he start during this conversation? He starts at -5. Where does the conversation actually start? Index 0, and it's not a question, so it's a conversation. So element 0 is greeting, element 1 is see you later. Under questions, element 0 is what doing, that's what we called it, what I called it. That you can just create anything you want here, and you can have very elaborate long conversations if you want. But the conversation is going to start at 0, and the question, and the start is not a question. So greetings is our first thing. That's what's going to run. This is greetings. This is the dialogue script. And greetings is between Sally, who has an image, and Mark, who has an image. Two people. Index 0, index 1. Let's just reset all this stuff. So Sally says to Mark, so Sally, is the conversation description is Sally to Mark. Who is the avatar? It's Sally. Sally's the one talking. She is index 0. So if I do this, the int. So I should have said that as index, but that is 0, Sally is 0. So it will find her name and her avatar. She's positioned on screen left, and Sally says two things. She says, "Good morning, Mark. Welcome to our tutorial today." Then, Mark, this is the second part of the conversation, Mark says to Sally, and Mark is person 1, index 1, on the right side of the screen. So we can have multiple people and just drop them on the left or the right, whichever one we want to put them to, as long as we use an index number to pull up their name and their avatar. Mark only says one thing. He says, "Thank you, I hope I learn a lot about conversation trees." That's all Mark says. And then the conversation's over. So after we've gone through the entire conversation, what happens? I want there to be a question asked. Which question? Question 0. If I go back to my tree, it's going to look for the questions, and here we find question 0. It's going to ask this question here. Let's go back to greeting. I want to alter the tree. So I want to alter the start. I don't want to go through this conversation again. I want it to start with that question. So that question is going to be the starting point, and it is starting point 0 because that question was the 0 index of questions. I don't want to remove my NPC. So that question's done. The question 0 is now going to be asked. Here is the question. So the question is set up. It is Sally asking it. She says, "How are you doing?" Here's her avatar. She's on the left. I've got 3 options. This one is, as you saw, to a maximum of 4. So I have awesome, bad day, I don't want to talk to you. Let's look at awesome. The text option will be awesome. Is this going to lead somewhere? Yes, it's going to lead somewhere. I want to go to my conversation tree. I want to find index 1, and it's not a question. So here's our conversation tree. Index 1 says see you later, and that there is my pulled from my conversation tree because it's not a question. So that option leads to that conversation. Am I going to alter the tree? Yes. I want to alter the start. I want it to start at conversation 1 because it's not a question. So that's, if I exit now or do anything, it's going to go back to that. Having a bad day. This leads nowhere. It doesn't even change the conversation. Anytime I reset it, it's going to come right back to this question again. So this question is the last part that we've altered the tree. And then I don't want to talk to you, leads nowhere, and it removes the NPC. So currently, the NPC will stay there. We don't have anything currently destroying the NPC. However, if you were to walk out of the scene and walk back in, the NPC will not be there because this remove NPC, if I clicked on this option and remove NPC happens, the NPC has this tree on it, and the tree will take the in scene and turn it off. And our NPC script says to look for this. If this is off, destroy my object on awake. So if it's on, the object stays. If it's off, he's gone. So let's give this a try. This entire thing should work now. First I want to do a save, and let's play it. I'm going to keep it small down here. We saw that just the NPC popped over to -5, because that's where we wanted it. So I'm going to move my character around. There's my player. And the second I get inside range, that pops up. Everything's working good so far. If I click on it, it's brought this up. Now, we can see that our conversation tree is still at starting point 0, so that if I click here, this exits. So I can come back into the conversation, and we still start at 0. Good morning, Mark. I click here. Welcome to our tutorial today. I click again. Thank you. I hope I learned a lot about conversation trees. So we had swapped the person. Now it says Mark. And we know that at the end of this, we're now moving to the question. Here's our question. Awesome. I don't want to talk to you. Bad day. Forgive this. I was messing around with something and I forgot to reset that. If I say bad day, it exits. Bad day, we know, led nowhere. But we can see here, conversation start point 0 is question, which means that the next time I go in, it's going to be looking for a question inside of the index 0. So I'm going to go straight back to this question. If I say awesome, we can see that awesome advanced me to the next element. the next conversation, see you later, which only had the one thing. We never looked at it, but if I look at it, it only has Sally to Mark, have a good day. However, this has changed our start point to 1, so index 1, not a question. So conversation index 1 is this. So if I exit this and I go back in, she keeps saying have a good day. So that will be her default after we've talked to her. I'm going to reset here and say, let's go back to that question. There we go. So if I go back in, we get back to our question, and we're going to test this one now, in scene. So I don't want to talk to you. It's closed, and we see in scene has turned off. Now I don't have anything for walking off the screen, but if I close this, this is one of the faults I find with scriptable objects. Any change I make to it remains. It does not go away. So I would have to keep on resetting things. So if I start back now, in scene is turned off. When I start up, he's going to read this file and see that he's not supposed to be in the scene. Start up and watch the guy. And he disappears. So he's no longer in that scene. His game object has been destroyed. So that is a working piece. If you want to modify it in different ways, I did give a couple of ideas as to how it can be modified. For instance, when you finish a conversation, do you go to a question or do you go to another conversation? That's something I could have easily have added. I just didn't think of it at the time, and I didn't need it at the time, but that can be done by you. Please leave a comment in the section below and let me know what you thought of the tutorials, and let me know how you've altered to suit your needs. Thank you.